Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Business Analysis for Project Managers, presented by our Director of Leadership Training here at Watermark Learning, Andrea Brockmeyer. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'll be assisting and moderating our session today. We are in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use the chat or that Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Mariela, and Happy New Year, everybody, 2025. Hard to believe we're a week in. And it's great to have you here to talk about business analysis for project managers, business analysis for anybody, but in particular, project managers. So let's, just for fun, let's see who's out there. We always like to start with a little poll, make sure you're, give you a chance to share something. So let me run the poll here. And yeah, here we go. So which of the following best, and obviously there could be some other things on the list there, but great response. Okay. About 10 more seconds to weigh in on the poll that you should see on your screen there. All right. Okay. So, wow, really heavy on the PMs, not surprising, given, if nothing else, the title of the presentation. We've got some BAs, a few hybrid PM, PMBA hybrid, SMEs, team members, contributors, that kind of thing, and a few others. What are some of the others? I'm just curious if you want to pop them into chat. So one of the things that I want you to keep in mind how you answered this. Oh, a program manager. Okay. Yeah. System architect, enterprise. Okay. Interesting. So I want you to think about your answer, and particularly for those of you who said project manager, and think about at the end of this if you'd answer it the same way. Just food for thought there. All right. Thank you, folks. So I feel pretty passionately about this topic. I think that project managers are spending time well if they are learning something about business analysis. Why do I think, and I have been kind of beating this drum for a while, why do I think this is such an important thing? Well, if you take a look at some of the research that people are doing, inaccurate requirements gathering is a consistent theme as to why we're not performing on our initiatives like we should be. Here we have something from PMI's Pulse of the Profession, requirements gathering, poor requirements gathering, inaccurate requirements gathering consistently ranks in the top 3 causes of project failure, yet, and listen to this, only half of organizations have the resources in place to perform this function properly. So there isn't an investment in, in getting good requirements. 45% of BAs, report that their biggest obstacle is people not understanding the BA role. Okay, now this is from admittedly a few years ago, but for almost half of BAs report that their biggest challenge is people not understanding what they do. Imagine if people said that about you. Imagine if half of the people didn't understand what project managers do. I want you to think about that. Okay. Now this is from one, not the last one, but the one before that, Global State of BA report. Respondents report the biggest barrier in their role is a lack of understanding the role of business analysis, being excluded from decision-making, and explaining business analysis to others. So this is having to explain what it is you do. What if you had to preface every meeting with explaining what the heck it is that you do, right? And so if you look at these barriers, really, it's all about people not understanding. There's some flavor of people not understanding what BA is about. Okay, and this is a problem. This is an issue for everybody. There are enormous costs to this. So what is it then? What is a business analyst? Well, both PMI and IIBA, so the International Institute of Business Analysis, which is in many ways, IIBA is to BA what PMI is to project management, if you're familiar with those organizations. They both say essentially the same thing. Anybody who's doing the work as described in the Babcock Guide, which is like the PMBOK for business analysis, no matter their job title or organizational role. PMI says the same thing. Anybody doing the work of business analysis, regardless of title. Okay, so it's not a title. It's a role. Okay, it's the things that we do, and you'll see the hashtag there. I feel pretty passionately about this too, and you may have seen that. You do BA. I am pretty much of the opinion that everybody does business analysis, whether they recognize it or not. And as we just talked about, a lot of times we don't. Okay. So what is business analysis? Well, there are a variety of definitions, all of which work. You could define BA as a set of activities to perform to identify business needs, recommend relevant solutions, and elicit, document, and manage requirements. Really, there's not an argument there. The practice of enabling change in an enterprise by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. I particularly like the inclusion of the word value in there. Certainly that's the case. It's a set of activities performed to support delivery of solutions that align to business objectives and provide continuous value to the organization. I love this continuous value because that gets to the idea that which we're going to look at here in a minute, business analysis is not just what happens within the context of the project, but it spills out on either side of an initiative as well. So it's the things that we do to make sure that what we are delivering to our stakeholders is meeting the business need and delivers value, not just immediately, but ongoing to the organization. Okay, who's not doing that? If there's people that aren't doing that in one way or another, then what are they doing here? I feel pretty strongly that everybody needs to be doing this in one way or the other. So project managers might look at this and they say, this sounds a lot actually like what I do. It is similar. There are some similarities, but there are some important distinctions as well. And this is one of the challenges because people that are doing project management and maybe they work with a BA, maybe they're not really sure how the business analysis is getting done. I'd suggest that a lot of times they're doing the business analysis and not even aware of it. So if we take a look at that first definition, we'll tweak it a little bit. Project management is a set of activities to identify and conduct the work needed to meet the business needs and develop the relevant solutions and to elicit, document, and manage requirements. Yes, PMs do manage, they deal with requirements. But we're talking about doing the work of developing the solution. And that second definition, project management is the practice of enabling change in an enterprise by collaborating on how to deliver those solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. On that last one, it's a set of activities performed to deliver solutions that align to business objectives and provide continuous value to the organization. So the BA is about figuring out what do the stakeholders need, not just what they want, but what is it that they need that's going to deliver business value. Project management is defining the work to create that and managing the work to create that. Okay, they're both super important. Business analysis is important because it's making sure that the solution meets the stakeholder needs. It's important because it's making sure that we're getting buy-in from stakeholders. Oh yeah. It's making sure that different viewpoints and needs are captured. It's making sure that we streamline processes and eliminate waste in our organizations, making sure that the solution is adding value to the organization and to the stakeholders. And we're positioning, business analysis is positioning the organization for success by enabling change. And again, as a project manager, or if you're familiar with project management, you might be thinking, doesn't the PM do that? Well, some of it they do. Some of them we need to modify a little bit. So business analysis is making sure that the solution meets the stakeholder needs. Project management is making sure that the project meets the stakeholder needs. The work that's being done to deliver that solution. Getting buy-in from stakeholders, absolutely both of them do. Different stakeholders, perhaps, some overlap, but they absolutely both do that. Making sure that different viewpoints and needs are captured, absolutely they both do that. Business analysis is helping to streamline processes and eliminate waste. That sounds like a good thing. Doesn't a PM do that? Well, the PM is making sure that our project processes are efficient and that we don't have waste in our project processes. The BA looking at all the processes that they encounter, which they do just by the nature of their work. Making sure that the solution adds value to the organization and stakeholders is what business analysis is about. Project management is making sure that the project adds value to the organization and stakeholders. And then positioning the organization for success by enabling change, they both do that. And both of them have sort of claimed that, that mantra. Project management is how organizations adapt to change. Business analysis is how organizations adapt to change. They both claim that at one point or another. Certainly they both do that in different ways. Okay, so there is some overlap there, and then sometimes where we need to tweak things a little bit. Visually, let's take a look at the boundaries of, say, a project or an initiative, whatever that may be, program, whatever, and where the project of the business analysis work intersects with that. Okay, so here we've got our project boundaries, starting the project, ending the project. And then we've got these business analysis. What is a stakeholder defined as? Oh, that's a great question. Anybody who is impacted by or can impact what we're doing. Two-way relationship. BAs have their stakeholders, PMs have their stakeholders, right? It's that two-way, they affect each other. But here's the business analysis work. So you can see business analysis is not constrained by the boundaries of the project. Certainly there is business analysis work that happens within the boundaries of the project, but there's also that work that's done to define the business need, to come up with why do we need to do this? Hey, what are the pain points in the organization? And importantly, developing that business case. That's all technically, and again, regardless of the title of the people doing it, that's business analysis work. What are the problems at the organization? What are the pains the organization or the opportunities that the organization is facing right now that we want to take advantage of? And there are multiple. Which ones are the best? Okay, all that stuff that goes into the business case. And then there is stuff that happens post-project. The end of the project, the inclination for most project people is to sort of say, yay, we're done. We do our final lessons learned, whatever that project closure looks like. And then we're off and running to the next thing. Well, did we actually meet the needs of did we actually deliver on the business case? Are we actually getting out of this whatever it is we just did as we expected? Are we getting the improved customer satisfaction? Are we getting the increased sales? Are we getting the lowered costs? Do we go back around and ask that question? Not 1 week after the close of the project, but maybe a month, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe continuing to ask that question, evaluating what's in the environment. And what do we need to do about it? Should we retire it? Should we enhance it? Should we get rid of it? What should we do? It's business analysis. Right? Certainly, obviously, analyzing and documenting requirements happens within the boundaries of the project continuously. And again, project managers have their own requirements to think about as well. But planning for the BA effort, doing that beginning pre-project throughout to the end, listening and collaborating, engaging stakeholders, right? We don't gather requirements, we elicit, we do the hard work of eliciting And that requires collaboration to partner with our stakeholders to make sure that we understand that they're engaged, that they own the requirements that they need to own. That's happening beginning, during, and after. And managing requirements happening beginning, during, during, and after as well. So you can see, if a project manager is thinking about the BA work they do, often they're constrained by the boundaries of the project, but business analysis actually happens outside of those boundaries. All right, so you've got the charter, the project charter. Oh yeah, well, the input to that is that business case, right? And then that business benefits management plan, not technically a PM document, but something that the PM needs to be thinking about as they're managing the project. Much of that information for that, though, happens long after the project has closed. And that could be, again, a month, 6 months, 12 months, whatever, to know, are we getting the benefits? So the project manager and the business analyst looking through two different lenses. The project manager being the caretaker or custodian of the project, that is the work of developing or creating the solution. The business analyst, the caretaker or custodian of the product, or what we like to say, the solution, which could include a widget, could include software, could include new processes, could include new ways of organizing people, all of those, some of those, whatever. They're the ones who are thinking about that and addressing that. Two different lenses that we're looking through. Equally important. One of the things that is a bit of nails on a chalkboard for me is where you have the BA who is subservient in some way to the project manager. The BA sort of reports to the PM. Really, and I don't care about reporting per se, but the project manager and business analyst should be collaborating as colleagues. This sort of hierarchical thing between them, one way or the other, is really not best for the organization. They're both equally important. They need each other. They should be working together, but they are looking through two different lenses. Okay? Who needs to know, for example, if we're going to miss a project deadline? That's the concern of the project manager. Who needs to know about the status of the requirements, or who's the one that's going to answer that question? That's really something that the BA is going to address. Who needs to know about changes on the project? Well, they both do. It depends on what the changes are. Right? What about risk? What if people won't make time for a requirements workshop? We've got a requirements workshop. People aren't going to make time. Okay? The BA is the point person on that. What about if we lose a developer? Project manager is a point person on that. What if the business case changes? We need to talk. How are we going to document requirements? That's something the BA is going to be the lead on. What are we going to use for project scheduling? It's project manager is going to make that decision. How are we going to work with the value management office or the project management office or centers of excellence or whatever it is? We're both going to be concerned about that. Now, obviously, there's communication between them regularly about these things, but if you're looking through one lens or the other, you can see that there are primary concerns that you have. You are the point person for some of these, and the other role is the point person for others. If you're trying to do both, it gets very muddy. And if you aren't sure, that gets muddy as well, because your concerns are different. The other thing is the accountabilities are different. And this is something that gets very little attention. To whom is the project manager primarily accountable? What would you say to that? To whom is the project manager primarily accountable? Sponsor, exactly. The sponsor. Most people, it's a pretty quick answer. Yeah, stakeholders in general, but the stakeholder, because the sponsor is a stakeholder, the sponsor, usually that's a pretty quick answer. The PM is accountable to the sponsor. To whom is the BA accountable? That's a different question. You don't always get a lot of different answers to that. And again, when people say the project manager, I'm not comfortable with that at all. The business owner, right? Exactly. That's where I'd be inclined to go. Is or the solution owner, perhaps, or the business owner. Who are they getting the requirements from? In some ways, the sponsor. It's an interesting question, and we don't have it's out of scope for today's discussion. But think about that. I think the fact that there are so many different answers to that is a good indicator of the lack of shared understanding about what business analysis is. Yeah. So if you're trying to look through both of these lenses, getting clarity about what business analysis is about is helps you to distinguish the project management work from the BA work. And again, if we're thinking in terms of coming from, for you PMs out there, a PM who understands business analysis has better clarity about how their work is different from the BA work. They are better able to recognize when they are doing BA work and to use that perspective and to be looking through that lens. To know when they should be participating in which project or product related activities and how. And again, as to whom they are accountable. Big piece. Now, other things to think about and why I think it's so critical that people understand what business analysis is about. There are things that are part of a BA's domain of expertise or bailiwick of concerns or whatever that PMs don't think a lot about. One of which is PMs who better understand BA are the BAs. Well, and that may be. I think that's often the case, right? Or they are working with BAs and totally get what they do and are collaborating super effectively with them. So I think, that's often the case, though. I think you're right. But something that BAs deal with or think about it, and that's always on their radars that PMs don't, in my experience, are business rules, right? Those self-imposed constraints about how we do things around here. And business rules are typically not project specific. They might be pertinent to a division or an area or maybe even the whole organization. But things like, customers must have a valid account to withdraw cash, or you must have a signed agreement before a project can be scheduled. All of those things that, how we do things around here, that we build process and technology to support. These are things that BAs have to think about because they're really coming up with the what that solution needs to be. PMs encounter them. I don't think, in my experience, they're as front of mind as they are with BAs, and they're super important. We miss them at our expense of the organization, and a lot of rework that happens if you don't get those business rules identified up front. The other thing is traceability, and traceability can look a lot of different ways. You can have a requirements traceability matrix that shows traceability through different kinds of requirements, and you can have, that can be varying degrees of complexity. Even in an adaptive environment or agile environment, there is traceability. For example, we don't come up with detailed user stories with acceptance criteria and examples and all those kinds of things without some sort of context, whether it's impact mapping and identifying goals and impacts and deliverables or story mapping. That's an aspect of traceability as well. That larger picture, the larger context for the why we're doing something. Right? We need to understand the why, which again gets back to that business case. But BAs are really dialed into that as well, that idea of traceability, just because they have tools that are specifically designed for that. And it's just part of how they grow up, is thinking about that idea of traceability. And I think that perspective is really helpful for anybody, but usually you're looking to a BA to kind of bring that reminder and often visual perspective of that traceability and getting a lot of value from that in terms of, like, we're not just coming up with stuff that somebody thinks sounds like a neat idea without having an understanding of the business value of it. So PMs who understand business analysis are the BAs, but they also appreciate the BA work that needs to be done on their projects. This is the thing. You can have a project without a BA being assigned to it. That doesn't mean that business analysis isn't being done. You cannot have a project if you do not have BA work being done. There's nothing to develop. There's nothing to create. So somebody is doing that work. And a PM who understands this a little bit and improves their understanding of it is going to be more appreciative of that work that's being done. And they're more effective advocates for the work and the people who do it. So a PM who is experiencing challenges with time or cost or other constraints and is seeing that there's a lot of rework, a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration, maybe can understand where there isn't really adequate BA work being done and go back and ask for that rather than more time, more money. Start to think about, hey, you know what? We need better BA work being done here. Or maybe I can't do both. Those of you who are hybrid PM BAs, you're tired. And the reason is they're both full-time jobs. So from that perspective, you're a more effective PM as well. This is just like, why do you teach project management to team members or individual contributors, people who aren't technically managing the project? Because they're way better as team members. When they understand what a project manager needs, they're way more effective as team members. They ask better questions. They're more timely in their delivery. They're going to collaborate more enthusiastically because they understand what the PM needs. Like, why do you teach sponsors what PMs do? Because they're way better sponsors. They're not managing the project, but they're way better advocates for that project management work. They ask better questions. They make better use of their time as sponsors. It's the same kind of thing, PMs with business analysis, right? And honestly, folks, if the biggest barrier to BAs doing their work well continues to be that people don't understand what they do, come on, we can do better than this. It's in our interest to do better than this. Because when we understand business analysis, we're going to be better at all of the work we do, whether it's project management, individual contributor, whatever. And we're going to appreciate what is required to deliver quality projects and products. And we become advocates for the inclusion of good BAs and maybe even the individuals who do it on our projects to enhance project and product value. And frankly, we're going to do the better BA work that we do, right? We're all doing BA work. We're going to be way better at it if we understand what it is. So we would love to help you on this journey, whatever your professional development journey looks like. And Educate 360 has anything you need, whether it's super technical, cyber security stuff, leadership skills, business analysis, project management, anything in between. We'd love to help you out. Don't hesitate to reach out. And here are some of the upcoming BA classes that we have coming up on the near horizon. And let it just be said here and now that there is nothing that says I love you like his and hers seats in a Building Better Business Cases class. So something new and fresh for Valentine's Day. There you go. I don't know how we're doing. I got 1 minute. Questions? Anybody?
Hey, Andrea, I will give our audience this last minute to throw in any last minute questions if they have any. But just to give our audience a quick reminder, because I saw some comments in the chat, if you need any more
Okay.
information on this topic, please do not be afraid to visit us at watermarklearning.com. And if you missed any part of this session, we will be sharing a recording with all of you in an email after the webinar. See this,
Did I miss any questions?
I think we got them all.
Okay. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will all see you all very soon, hopefully in the classroom. Bye now.